What's going on, guys? ICV is back with another video, and today we are going to talk about Oakton High School. So, when you think about Oakton High School, what do you think of? Well, if you don't go to Oakton High School, it's the joke of a football team. Like, every person you ask that goes to Oakton, if you're not on the football team, if you ask how the football team is doing, they'll be like, we have a football team? Like, they're so disengaged with the football team, like, nobody cares anymore. And they have no reason to. Been a joke for a long time. But the truth is, this was not always the case. Oakton used to be a powerhouse, or at least they were contenders every year. So today we're going to get into how good they were, what happened to cause them to be this bad now, and what they can do to fix it. So to start off, Oakton was, especially in the late 90s, it's hard to get information since Max Preps only goes back to 2004, but I was able to find that they are 4-time district champions, 4-time region championships, most of them before the kids today were alive, most of them being in the 90s, and 1 state championship in 2005. So they do have a pretty decorated resume over the years. Like, they have won. Like, if my school was signing up for 50 years, first 50 years, 4 district championships, 4 region championships, 1 state championships, most schools would sign up for that, to be honest. And it's hard to go season by season, but starting in 2004 they went 10-2, lost in the region semis. So that was a very good season. And then 2005, that was your state championship year. They were 12-2 overall. Went all the way. They were a really good team. And then 2006 kind of had a nice little down year. Still went 6-4 in the regular season and made the playoffs. So that was good. But they were bounced first round, mainly because they lost pretty much everybody from the state championship team. And 2007, yet another down year. And it was weird because that year they didn't even make the playoffs. So I would have like a state championship and then 2 down years. Then 2008, for some reason, they got so much better and they went right back to being dominant. They had like their best regular season ever, undefeated in the regular season, and then they lost in the state semis. So didn't win a championship, but still getting to the state semis is impressive. So in the first 5 years that Max Preps goes back to, in this span, 2004 to 2008, that's 3 state semi appearances and 1 state championship. That's pretty impressive. Like, that's only 2 down years to bring the overall record down. But Oakton was knocking on the door of being a potential dynasty at that point. But they did have a problem. Like, they lost everybody from the 2008 team, or you would think they have, because the next year they went 5-6, which is another down year. So every time, this took a hit to their resumes, legit contenders, because every time they would I would have a really good season, it seemed like they would follow it up with a down year, which it could be natural losing players, but the real best teams, like, they build the culture and they're able to sustain it regardless of what players are there. So, and then this was a down year. They still happened to make the playoffs, but they were 5-5 in the regular season, and they got bounced first round. They were mid. And then 2006, they were a little bit better. They still got bounced first round. Regular season solid 7-3, but it wasn't enough. They didn't get it done in the playoffs. Or not 2006, 2010. And then 2011, but yeah, that's still going to the playoffs. This is at least their 6th playoff appearance in 7 years. And in 2011, they would be better. But they still lost first round. Like, they were 8-2 in the regular season and still lost first round. That's very rare. Which showed that the team was good, but they couldn't get it done when it mattered. And maybe they were just frauds. But that's still, 7 playoff appearances in 8 years? The next year is when things would take off. They went back to the state semis, 7-3 in the regular season, winning 2 playoff games, and then they would lose in the state semis, sadly. But over this 9-year stretch, 2004 to 2012, went to the state semis, 4 times, lost 3 times, won once, won it all once, and then that's 8 playoff appearances in 9 years. And people think Oakton's still knocking on the door, like next year's only going to be better, but no, that next year they had a down year, which they still have a winning record, but they had it was weird. They had a 9-game season and they missed the playoffs at 5-4. That was unlucky. And the next year, they had a losing record. They had an 11-game season for some reason. Went 5-6, but they still ended up in the playoffs where they predictably bounced first round. And next year they were 5-5, so that's 3. At the time, these were considered down years. That's 3 down years in a row for them. So very uncharacteristic. It shows that the program is falling off a bit. So how did they respond? Next year they're 4-6, another mid-season, 2016, and then 2017 is when things would start to go way downhill. 2017 1-8, 2018 0-10. That's a win this season, which is beyond embarrassing. Those seasons they would be blown out typically every single game. They were not competitive at all. 2019 2-8, 2020 or spring 2021 COVID season 1-6. 2022 or 2021, people think they started to turn it around. They started the season winning their first 4 games. But once they got into Concord District play, they were cooked, and they ended up going 4-6 and missing the playoffs entirely. And at this point, this is 7 straight years of missing the playoffs. And then 2022 won their first 2 games and then got blown out in the rest of them. 2023 1-9. 2024 though, this is where things get interesting. They went 4-6. Seems like they weren't that bad last year, and maybe they're on the rise. Who knows? But the fact that back in the day 5-5 was considered a down year for them, now 4-6 is considered a success. Just shows how far the program has fallen. Haven't made the playoffs since 2014, where they backed in with a losing record. Haven't had a winning season since 2013. Haven't had an actual good season since 2012, which is their last state semi appearance. Haven't beaten Madison since 2015. And since 2017, they are on a generational run of being bad. 15-61 since 2017. And that's winning 20% of your games, averaging a 2-8 season. So that is historically, it's hard to see a program this awful. And it's no coincidence that 2017, that's the time that they joined the Concord District. So, if you talk about what happened, if you're trying to think about what happened to them, probably what happened is they joined the Concord District, and they just couldn't compete in that. And even before the Concord District, they would struggle against Centerville and Westfield. They would play Centerville and Westfield, and they would get blown out. But the other teams in the district, like Herndon and Robinson, they would do okay against. And the schedule overall would be easier. Now they're playing Westfield, Chantilly, and Madison. They would always play Madison every year, but now it doesn't help that Madison and Westfield are wagons, and they have to play them every year. Chantilly, Centerville. That's definitely a tougher schedule than what they had before, and that has to be one of the reasons why they've fallen off. Another is that people always talk about how there was some redistricting at some point in time, about how some of the Oakton kids or the places that were zoned for Oakton are now zoned for Westfield and South Lakes. So that could be a big reason why, because Westfield has since become really good and South Lakes has been solid recently. So there's another reason. And yeah, Oakton really got screwed there, because after that it seems like they left with nobody, and then they have a few bad seasons, and then the coaches leave and they show their true colors, and unable to replace them, unable to develop players, always changing coaches. Heard about that, having an atrocious coaching staff, wasting lots of talent on offense, because some of the players that have come through recently, like Nick Toole, for example, have been really good. They've had Nick Toole and a bunch of good receivers over the years. apparently, but it's the coaching staff. It seems that seems to be holding them back. And now all those players are gone, and they're still stuck with the bad coaching staff. So that's why they haven't been able to rebuild. Also, they're still in the Concord District, which doesn't help at all. And there won't be a dynasty again, but getting out of the Concord District would be one thing. Like, if I'm trying to fix them, I would get out of the Concord District. Like, last year's team, if they weren't in the Concord District, they would have done better. Because it meant they didn't have to play Westfield, Chantilly, and Madison. Although they did win some Concord District games, like against South Lakes. It was a 48-47 overtime period. Like, that must have been insane to watch. Because that game was good. And to beat a South Lakes team that had been relevant recently, like the year before, they had gone 9-1 and beat Madison. And South Lakes historically been a solid program, so beating South Lakes was big. Also, what was also big was beating West Potomac, who has, I don't know how good they are now, but they were relevant. They've been relevant recently. They also beat Fairfax, who was in the state semis recently. So, those wins are something to build on. And they still didn't make the playoffs. They were 4-6. Basically, last few games they got blown out in because they were playing better teams. But maybe this is the start of something special. Maybe, who knows who they're going to have. They might lose all their good players. And we've seen them go 4-6 before. Like in 2021, they went 4-6. Turned out to be a complete fluke because the next year they went back to being bad. But maybe this time they're building something. Maybe not. I mean, only time will tell. We'll see how they do this year. Probably won't beat Madison. We'll see if they can. Maybe is this year they're here in the playoffs. If anything, like this is the best Oakton has felt at least in 3 years. Because we don't know if this could be similar to the 2021 team, but just like the 2021 team, it provides hope. It provides hope for the future. But it is not a good look to go out losing your last few games in that fashion. And Oakton, it doesn't look like they're leaving the Concord District anytime soon. I would say they should. So, still, maybe if they can get back to the Concord District, they can inflate their record. Back out of the Concord District, they can inflate their record a little bit and return to actual relevance. We'll get to see playoff games at the Ozone. And I know, like, you don't want to shy away from good teams. But you haven't showed a sign of beating those good teams. I mean, maybe you'll beat South Lakes, and Centerville was a close one. That was 7-0. Like, neither team played good. So outside of South Lakes, I think that's their only Concord District win ever. Like, one win in, 8 years. And they have 0 in their first 7 years. That's historically bad in their district. Like, they don't belong in that district, and it's been clear. And one win over South Lakes isn't going to change that, no matter how exciting it was. But hopefully this is not like 3 years ago, and this actually leads to something nice. They're actually building something at Oakton. And maybe they get back to what they once was. Maybe the backyard brawl, Madison versus Oakton, can become a rivalry game again. Instead of it being a foregone conclusion that Madison's going to win. So, if you're trying to fix Oakton, who knows, maybe they don't need fixing. Maybe they're on the way to something special, and it's just going to take time. But yeah, time is obviously going to be the number one ingredient in fixing Oakton. But the number 2 ingredient, if anything, obviously get out of the Concord District. Number 2 ingredient, maybe keep a few coaches, keep a few players. Maybe, or convincingly do some redistricting, like I suggested for Marshall. But either way, that's going to be hard to do. But whatever they do, don't be like Hayfield. Don't cheat. Actually win games legitimately. And wish the program good luck. And if I were them, what I would do, honestly, keep doing what you're doing. Ride the wave till it falls. Because although definitely seems odd to make this video off one of their best seasons ever, But when you haven't made the playoff and you've been bad for this long, and you believe it when I see it, but the only way to see it is it's not going to come right away. It's going to come, you're going to have probably have like a 4-6 season in between. And like, maybe that was last season, and maybe they're on the rise. But at least they're not as bad as they used to be. Maybe they can put some seasons together, and I hope they can, for their sake. And maybe, if you have the Oakton students coming out to the games, that in itself is a win. Them knowing that there's a football team and everything. But then that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you next time. Peace.